A pleasant day to all of you. At this point, let us explain to you ethics through thick and thin, and ethics and religion. This will be discussed by me, Sheena, Sir Adams, Ma'am Julian, and Ma'am Richelle. By the way, pardon me for not opening my camera as I am just using mobile data. Moving on, to start, let me ask you this question. Do you think moral rules should change depending on the situation, or should they stay the same no matter what? In simple words, how far can you go being firm in adhering to your beliefs and when faced in a good or bad situation? What do you follow, thin ethics or thick ethics? You may comment your answer on our Google Classroom later on. So now let's proceed to ethics through thick and thin. Let's differentiate the two concepts. Well, okay, we have here thin ethics. When we say thin ethics, it talks about the universal abstract principles like fairness, honesty, and human rights. It talks about the bad and the good. That is the thin ethics. On the other hand, when we say thick ethics, it is deeply rooted on moral traditions tied to culture, religion, and community. Like, for example, we have Catholic teachings, Islamic law, and indigenous customs. That is for thick ethics. So we have the thin and thick ethics. When we say thick ethics, it's talk about, again, the moral tradition. Rooted in moral tradition, talks about the culture, religion, and community. When we say thin ethics, it talks about the fairness and the human right. I have here an example for you to clearly differentiate the two. For example, international agreements on climate change use thin ethics. So it shows or talks about responsibility to protect the planet. That shows thin ethics, talks about universal principles, the abstract one. And it talks about responsibility to protect the planet. It talks about the rights of the living principles. While nations interpret them through thick ethics, it talks about it goes like local values, religious stewardship. When we say religious stewardship, it is the theological belief that humans are caretaker entrusted by God to manage the earth, humanity, and personal resources. Do you have any questions on the difference between thin and thick ethics? Again, thin ethics uses abstract, universal terms like right or wrong to find global agreement, whereas thick ethics uses culturally rich descriptive terms like sacred or cruel that rely entirely on local tradition. Do you have any questions, clarifications? You may chat me personally if you have your questions on the difference between the two. But if none, I want you to remember this. Ethics must endure through thick and thin, not just when convenient, but even in difficult situations. So that's all for the concepts of thin and thick ethics. If you don't have any questions, now allow me to call Mom Julian to discuss globalization and pluralism, new challenges of ethics. Mom Julian?
Thank you for that, Ma'am Sheena. Before we start with the next topic, let me just introduce myself. I am Julian M. Pujalte, and I will be discussing globalization and pluralism, new challenges of ethics. You may already know about globalization as we already discussed it from one of our subjects. So this part will just be a recap. Now, what is globalization? Globalization is the expansion and intensification of social relations and consciousness across world time and world space, according to Manfred in 2014. Another definition we have is about the growing interdependence of the world's economies, cultures, populations brought about by cross border trade in goods and services, technology, and flows of investment, people, and information. What about pluralism? Is it your first time hearing about this word? Well, let me discuss it to you. Pluralism, or doctrine of multiplicity. This suggests differences in concepts, worldviews, discourses, and viewpoints. An interpretation of social diversity rendered as a political, cultural, social, or philosophical stance. So, what does this mean? Let's focus on the word multiplicity. Pluralism acknowledges that there are diverse groups in society, but that's not all. When we say diversity, it is only acknowledging the presence of different groups of people in a society. But in pluralism, those diverse groups are seen to be interacting with each other and coexisting peacefully. Just like in globalization, where we have the social, cultural, political, ecological, and environmental domains, pluralism also have domains or areas that emphasizes how it is observed. First one we have social pluralism. The- It is the existence of multiple and diverse social groups. For example, different ethnic groups coexisting peacefully. This example shows pluralism because in a society where diverse people live their lives individually, each of us can still interact and socialize with other diverse groups. Differences within ethnic groups are not really a concern with social pluralism because its main goal is to coexist peacefully. Sorry, it's it is the its goal is to coexist peacefully with those ethnic groups. All right. Second one we have political pluralism. It is about multiple groups that share power, compromise, prevent any form of political absolutism. We say absolutism, um it is about the reigning of only one powerful group to reign over different groups of people. So that is what political pluralism wants to avoid. For example, different interest groups and organizations lobbying the government for policies that they support. What does this mean? This action highlights the importance of hearing the different voices about government and decision making. Organizations and interest groups can represent the needs and concerns of various sectors, which helps maintain balance and prevents absolutism. Third one, we have religious pluralism. It is the recognition of multiple or diverse religious groups to coexist harmoniously. For example, different religious groups practice their religion freely within the society. So this example promotes tolerance and freedom in society by allowing people to believe open peace. Because I know that we mostly witness this of pluralism, religious pluralism in our community, where even though there are groups of people with different religions and religious practices, none of those groups openly act differently. And that is an example and evidence of pluralism, because even though multiple people in a community practice different religious groups, they still coexist harmoniously within their own religious group. Part one, we have the ethical pluralism. It is the claim that there are not one single good for human beings, but many. For example, different responsibilities are expected. What does it mean? This example recognizes that people may have different beliefs about what is considered good or right in life. Family responsibilities. Some families may want to, for example, some families may want to put their elderly parents in elderly homes so those people can take care of them. And some families do not accept that kind of arrangement because they want to take care of their families, their own parents by themselves. But we cannot say that that's not right, because ethical pluralism promotes or claims that there are not just one single good for human beings, but many. So if other parents or families deem it good to leave their parents in elderly homes, and other family deems it not good to leave their parents in elderly homes but take care of them by themselves, we cannot judge that situations by ourselves. All right. Lastly, we have moral pluralism. This occupies a sensible middle ground between there is only one right answer and there is no wrong answer. For example, people prioritize different values depending on context. What does this mean? People may arrive at different choices because they prioritize values differently. Yet our decision can still be morally reasonable and understandable within what society deems. So that is all about globalization and pluralism. Now that you've known those two, let us know how they become new challenges in ethics. I am now giving the floor to Ma'am Rochelle to discuss the challenges of globalization and pluralism in ethics.
Thank you, Ms. Pujalte. And now let's move on to our next topic, and that is why globalization presents new ethical challenges. We are all aware that globalization is seen as progress. It connects us, it opens opportunities, and it brings the world closer together. But if we look deeper, it also created serious moral conflicts and problems that we never had to face this strongly before. It is not just about trade or technology anymore. It is about how these changes affect our values, our people, our culture, and what we believe is right or wrong. The first one is inequality and unfair resource distribution. It says here that resources, opportunities, and benefits are unequally shared, raising ethical concerns regarding justice and fairness. So, globalization, it connects all countries, and we are all aware of that, but it does not share benefits equally. Rich nations and big companies become even richer and more powerful, while poor or developing countries remain behind. And that is because resources, money, and opportunities mostly go to those who already have them. Meaning to say, kung sino yung mga mayayaman ay mas lalong yumayaman, at kung sino yung mga mahihirap ay mas lalong naghihirap. And this is an ethical problem simply because fairness and justice mean everyone should have a fair chance to improve their lives. But sadly, unfortunately, some cannot. For example, Large fashion brands gain massive profits while paying workers in developing countries wages below living standards. Let's have this example. Uh, you buy very cheap, trendy clothes online from brand like Shein. Now, of course, they are affordable and convenient. But the hidden reality is, these clothes are mass produced in factories, mostly in China. And reports show workers work 12 to 16 hours a day, imagine that. And they have very low pay, less than minimum wage. They work in crowded, let's say, unsafe buildings. And they have no rest days. Wala silang day off. Also, making these clothes, it uses tons of water and chemicals that are dumped into rivers. It can pollute the environment and harming nearby communities. So the ethical question in here is, am I or are you supporting unfair labor and pollution just to save money and follow trends? So the ethical lesson would be, your choice to buy cheap fashion affects the health, safety, and livelihood of workers, and it damages nature thousands of kilometers away. Meaning big clothing brand like Shein, they make billions of profit every year. However, the workers who sew, or let's say they made these clothes, are paid very low wages. And sometimes not even enough to feed their families. No? So the company gains, but the people doing the hard work stay poor. So ask yourself, are you supporting these unfair treatment, unfair labor, and also pollution just to save money and follow trends? It is very unethical. No? Okay, next. Economic liberalization. Free trade and the regulation prioritize profit and competition, often disregarding labor rights, safety standards, and local welfare that conflict with cultural moral principles. So, globalization encourages free trade, meaning there would be fewer rules and borders so business can move easily. Yes, it can speed up buying and selling. It also means companies focus only on making more money, even if it hurts people or local traditions. Laws that protect these workers or culture are ignored to earn higher profit. So it creates ethical conflict simply because it puts money above human dignity and moral values. Let's have this example. Foreign corporations dominate local markets, displacing small businesses and disregarding fair labor practices. So large foreign online apps, let's say online apps or supermarkets, enter our country. They sell things very cheaply, which attracts buyers. But they slowly push out small, family-owned local shops and markets that cannot compete alone. Ano ba yung mga example dyan? Shopee, Lazada, TikTok Shop, so on and so forth. And another example for this is yung sa Siargao, no? Right now in Siargao, we clearly see how tourism profit is prioritized over local safety. Now, many Israeli tourists come in large numbers, ang dami na nila doon, because the island is marketed cheaply and freely to attract visitors and income. But reports keep rising that they verbally abuse locals. They call us slaves. Sometimes they refuse to pay bills. They drive recklessly. They harass people. And they even attack business owners, no? They are very disrespectful. They disrespect our culture, laws, and even peace. Yet, these authorities are very slow to act because tourism revenue matters more. We open our homes and share our island, our place, but instead of respect, we get what? Mistreatment, fear, and harm, all just to keep tourist numbers and money coming in. Okay. You have any question? Clarification? None? Okay. Let's proceed. Okay, the third one is universalization. Local traditions, languages, and values are gradually replaced, challenging the ethical duty to preserve identity. Since we are all connected, let's say the same technologies, languages, and even ways of living, they spread everywhere. This is called universalization. It makes communication easier, but it also slowly removes our unique traditions. Meaning, if one culture becomes dominant, others somehow disappear. And ethically, this is a problem because every culture has value and should be respected and preserved. Okay. For example, dominance of English language and Western media reduces appreciation for indigenous cultures and heritage. English is now used everywhere in business, school, and even media. And young people prefer speaking English over Filipino or let's say their local dialect. In movies, in music, and fashion from Western countries are very popular. While our own Filipino, let's say arts, songs, and traditions are becoming less known or appreciated. And sadly, we risk forgetting who we are. Next is modernization. It says here, local traditions, languages, and values are gradually replaced, challenging the ethical duty to preserve identity. Okay, so globalization, it spread the idea that modern means following Western systems or Western, say, ideas like their style of government, their economy, their religion, or even their moral standards. This is called Westernization. And these ways are treated as the correct or best way, even if they go against our own history, our own religion, or values. It creates ethical issues because it forces everyone to follow one standard instead of respecting different beliefs and ways of life. For example, okay, Western concepts of freedom and commercialization may clash with local, religious, or family values. Okay, a very example or clear example is how foreign influences change our views on family and relationships. In Filipino culture, we value deep respect for elders and close family ties, where family always comes first and we take care of our parents as they age. However, in Western media and let's say global trends, they promote ideas of total independence, like individualism and personal freedom. And slowly, many of our young people start to believe that leaving home early or prioritizing personal wants over family duties is the right or modern thing to do. And it creates confusion and conflict because we are told that to be advanced, we must act like them. But doing so, it breaks the very core values that hold our Filipino families and communities together. And that is to be together, with our family. But sadly, we end up forgetting who we are just to copy what the world tells us is better. And that is modernization or westernization. Do you get it? Do you have any question, clarification? None? Okay, let's proceed to the last one, which is deterritorialization. As national boundaries become less significant, issues such as environmental damage, inequality, and crime spread globally. Responsibilities and impacts cross borders, requiring shared accountability. So this is called deterritorialization. It means that borders and distance do not matter anymore. Because when countries connect, problems also travel across the world, such as pollution, waste, climate change, disease, or even crime happening in one country affects people in another. So ethically, this is a new challenge because it means our actions affect people we cannot see or meet. So we now have a duty to care for the whole world, not just our own community. For example, pollution or waste from developed nations causes harm and climate risk in distant and poorer countries. So, let's say factories in rich countries, they produce goods that we buy here. So to make these goods, they release smoke and chemicals that cause global warming. And of course, this leads to stronger typhoons, floods, and rising sea levels that hit the Philippines hard. We suffer from problems that started far away. And also, rich countries, they send their trash to poor countries. And it can poison our land and water. And this shows that harm done anywhere becomes a problem for everyone. So we have to be completely responsible. Do you have any question? Clarification? Okay. Okay, in short, globalization connects us all, but it creates ethical challenges because it creates unfairness, it prioritizes profit over people, it somehow erases our identity, it forces foreign values, and it makes everyone responsible for problems worldwide. And ethics now teaches us whatever we choose to do, to buy, to make, or to support, we must ask ourselves first, does this harm anyone? Does it treat everyone fairly? Because in a globalized world, we are all connected and we should be responsible. And that's all. I hope you've learned a lot. I will now pass the floor to Ms. Amoroso in discussing the ethics and religion.
Thank you. Now let's talk about ethics and religion. So ethics and religion, it says here, religious responses in global moral issues are necessarily normative. When we say normative, normative nature of religion is that religion is inherently normative. It asserts moral convictions and truths that believers see as non-negotiable. Hindi pwedeng baguhin. For example, commandments, you can change that. Or doctrines doctrines are not just suggestions. They are binding rules of life. Another one. So while we must acknowledge the modern day desire for a neutral and universal standard of norms, absolute neutrality is an impassibility. This is based on Thurston and Kamalimpur 2000. So absolute neutrality is an impossible thinking or hope. Why? So when we talk about neutrality versus universality, so in modern society, often seeks neutral universal standards like human rights or circular laws to handle global issues. However, again, religion cannot be fully neutral because it is rooted in faith and moral absolutes. So it can't be changed because it is what we practice, it is what people practice even before. So it can't be changed. Maybe you can bend some, you can change some, but absolutely for the universal perspective, it is impossible. So why is a religion still matters? Even in globalized world that values universalism, the religious wisdoms remains inescapable in moral and ethical debates. Different faiths bring unique perspectives that help societies cope with challenges like inequality, conflict, and cultural diversity. So the key point here is that, which I believe, is that religious must make a way to be heard in global discussions because, well, the world is changing. We can change, yes, we cannot change the Bible or what the doctrine says, but maybe we can amend something or we can somehow change something because, well, again, the world is changing, so we must cope to what is happening at the moment. So, sorry for that. Okay, going back. So, going back to what I am saying. So, not by compromising its convictions, but by helping others understand its beliefs. Okay? This dialogue ensures that diverse moral voices contribute to solving globalization's ethical challenges. To simplify, religion cannot be neutral because it is based on strong moral beliefs. Even though the world wants universal standards, we still need religious wisdom to guide us in facing global problems. Because, well, as what the presenters before said, that the uh, religion guides our ethical perspectives, our belief. So that connects, the two connects. So let's have this as an example. Religion and gender in the Philippines. When we connect it to thin and thick ethics, in the context of the Philippines, so in the Philippines, religion is deeply, the Philippines is deeply religious, with Catholicism shaping laws, education, and family life. Well, that is not new to us because we all know that we are colonized by the Spaniards, uh, which teach us or yes teach us or give to us the Catholic religion, right? So it came from the Spaniards. So it is not surprising that our in the Philippines Catholicism shapes our laws, education, and family life. So moving on, religion provides strong moral convictions that many Filipinos see as absolute truths. Because of this, neutrality on LGBTQ issue is difficult. Religious voices strongly influence public opinion and policy. Whether we admit it or not, religions really has a big impact in our life, in our perspective. in our opinion, in life. Well, that is not bad. Actually, it's good because it somehow it I mean yeah it guides us towards a more moral and ethical decision in life. So this example is a thick ethics in which it follows universal principles. These moral rules are packed with deep, specific cultural descriptions, such as concepts of sacred, sinful, or traditional family structures that only make sense within the specific context of Filipino Catholic culture. At the same time, globalization and human rights discourse emphasize equality, sorry, diversity, and protection of LGBTQ individuals. These are values shaped by modern contexts and global conversations. We have the GATT, right? The gender equality. They push society to be more inclusive even when traditional religious norms resist change. Some, okay? I'm not generalizing the religion. So this is an example of thin ethics. Rely on rely on broad universal principles like justice, rights, and fairness that are meant to apply to all human beings globally, regardless of their specific, local, or religious beliefs. So, in simple terms, religion in the Philippines makes LGBTQ plus or acceptance complex because it asserts strong moral rules, there is thick ethics, but globalization introduces new values of equality and diversity. That is for thin ethics. Understanding both help us see why debates about gender and sexuality are so challenging today, especially when we talk about gender and the religion. It is a complex one because we have our own perspectives, our own beliefs and lives. We follow maybe we follow the principles on the religious aspect in our life. So I believe that would be all for my part, but I want you first to remember this one. By the way, do you have any questions, clarifications on the on the ethics and religion? If none, I want you to remember this. It encapsulates by the way the discussion on the thin and thick ethics and the ethics and religion. Number one, religion provides thick moral anchors. Thick, that is for religion. Number two, thin ethics offer universal dialogue across faith, different perspectives, different beliefs. That is thin ethics. Why? Because why do we need to hear different perspectives and beliefs? Because in thin ethics, again, it talks about fairness and human rights. Number three, we have what is the importance of the discussion that we have. So together they encourage respect, empathy, and shared responsibility in a pluralistic world. That is the importance of thick and thin ethics and the ethics and religion. So it encourage would be all for my part. Now, let me call the next presenter.
Good day to each and everyone. Let me first introduce myself. I am Adam Sigor A. Oladive, presenting the topic, the role of ethics in religion. Let's proceed first with the introduction to the role of ethics and religion. Ethics and religion are important aspects of human life because they guide people in making decisions and determining what is right and wrong. Ethics focuses on moral principle and human conduct, while religion provides spiritual beliefs, teachings, and values that influence behavior. Both ethics and religion help individuals become responsible, respectful, and morally aware members of the society. Ethics, on the other hand, if we can go back to what we have learned on the past lessons here in ethics. So ethics has the concept of moral principles in human conduct. It makes us think for what is right and what is wrong. Well, religion, on the other hand, it is the spiritual beliefs, teachings, and values that influence our behavior that affects other people. It focuses on a faith that leads us to do good and do better, and also it symbolizes our oneness into a group of people that have the same belief. That is religion. Both ethics and religion is very important because it scaffolds our human self. It makes us to be responsible, respectful, and morally aware individuals of the society. We are here today. We are functional because religion and ethics is one of it. And later we will talk more about that for you to understand why is it important and why it is an important thing to learn through our lifetime. Okay? So first, let's define what is religion. Religion is a system of beliefs, practices, worships, and moral teachings centered on faith in a divine being or higher power. So we see God as the highest. We have different concept of gods. Okay? We have some people have one God that reflects their doings and how they think, their traditions, and also on how they act upon other people. And it is really effective since it has built our beliefs. It is a belief that we believe on, that we must do or we must practice. And other thing is the worship. We have different churches that makes us reflect on something, makes us learn a thing through different learnings or biblical learnings from God. And also, it has moral teachings because some teachings on different churches have their own reflection that makes us do something to be an effective individual in the society because it has a faith. We have that faith in us. We believe that there is a God that makes us do something. That is the reason why we are living today. That is the reason why we are loving and appreciating everything around us. That is the power of religion. Another thing is that religion connects people. Religion is a connection to what they consider sacred and guides them spiritually and morally. So again, religion is a connection. In the society, a group of people must share an idea, a common ground to make them better, to make them learn something, to make them live. Again, religion is a connection. No man is an island. That is a concept of religion in the society. It connects people to what they considered as sacred. So it is what they believe in, and also it guides them spiritually through faith and also morally into thinking for what is good and what is right around them. Another thing is from the belief of Saint Thomas de Aquinas. Again, we have Saint Thomas de Aquinas. We pronounce Aquinas as Aquinas, not Aquinas. Again, we have Saint Thomas de Aquinas. In Tagalog, Santo Tomas de Aquinas. Saint Thomas de Aquinas provides a definition of religion as the act of expressing worship and showing reverence to the divine before he relates it to virtue. So we have the virtue, right? It is to believe for what is good and what is good to others. And also expressing worship and showing reverence to the divine. It is to show appreciation to the divine matter, that we believe that they exist, so that we have to relate it to our moral conscience, to our moral virtue on how we act upon it. Okay, so spiritual beliefs is really effective in religion because it makes us act on something. It makes us to perform something, to be a good person in the society for what we think is good. He portrays that religion as a rendering to God what is due to Him, and as fundamentally consisting of divine worship. So, as a religious individual, divine worships are really important because it portrays rendering to God for what is due to Him. You are following Him and you are learning something with Him or about Him. Let me ask a question. Do you go to church every Sundays? Is church has been a part of your lifetime? Let me know about that because this reflects on what um, is religion is trying to portray, is why is religion important to us humans, because fundamentally it leads us for the better to show reverence to the divine and relates it to virtue on how we act as a human person. Okay. Aquinas again approaches the entire question of religion from the methodological view that highlights a crucial initial point. All acts of religion, according to him, are human acts rather than mere acts of man, since they involve rational understanding of the intellect and concept of the will. So here, this approach has a question of the religion. So religion is a belief, and as human, we'll decide rather than we will act as a man or we will act based on what we believe in. So since they involve rational understanding in the intellect and concept of the will, it is our act, our thinking to do something. So we will just think about it. We will do this for what we think is right in our religion and bad to others. It is a hard question because in religion, human acts rather than mere acts of a man, even though um, it is not based on what we think is right to our law. We have our religion, our unbeliefs that leads us to do something that our religion thinks for what is right. Justice in religion is one of the major parts of the society that has been taught not only on speaking but also on the internet as a 21st century individuals. Is religion believable than the law itself? Religion shapes us to do better, and laws shapes us to fight for what is right. And they contradict with each other. And that's the concept of Aquinas. So it is a question of religion from methodological view. It is the research view that highlights a crucial initial point, that human acts rather than mere acts of a man. So here, we're done with the concept of religion and how we define them, and we just think of something that the religion is a mere act of a man, and now we can define or we can say that most religions nowadays teach important values such as first love. It learns us to appreciate around us, to show love, to show agape love. If you know agape love, it is the love that we gave to God, the love that we exert to one and only God. That is agape love. It means us love something. And also marriage comes with the love itself because we perform marriage inside the church, right? So marriage is really important since it is sacred to us Filipinos, especially for Catholics, Roman Catholics, for example. Next is respect. It makes us pay respect to the highest. We pay respect to God, and also it teaches us to at least pay respect to other religions. So some of us doesn't think that we can respect other religions, but we must practice it as a responsible human in the society. And you as listeners, we will be future teachers. We will not just a smart person indeed, but we must perform respect with other people. Okay, respect will leads us to different things in life. And next is compassion. It is a compassion of us to do something, to be motivated to do something, because we know that God's believe in us. So I have this important one important Bible lesson in my life that I carry since I was a kid. It is Philippians 4 verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And that is my all-time motivation when I feel weak that I can do this, and it leads us to into thinking that I can do this because I know that there is someone right there that is believing in me. And that is the power of the religion in compassion. Next is forgiveness. Forgiveness, it is a act of us to accept every people that has been bad to us, or who did bad to us. So it is forgiving other people, and also to understand them, because I know even God that we believe in has its own values that forgives other people. Next is justice. Religion is a teaches justice at some point, since we have a set of points that we believe in, that it is one of the beliefs that it is bad to kill someone, it is bad to steal, it is bad to steal someone's wife or husband. Take note of that. So, one of the justices, or some of the justices in the Bible and also on the religion that we are having, is also reflecting on the kind of justice that we are having here in the Philippines. Okay? So, next is a set of responsibility. We are teaching as a religious people to be responsible on ourselves, since we are it also teaches us to care about ourselves and also the people around us, to be a responsible individuals in the society, not only as a part of it, but also an effective part of it, where you can help other people to do better, to learn something. Okay, so again, to sum it all up, most religions teach important values, such as first, we have love, we have respect, compassion, forgiveness, justice, and responsibility. So in major world religions, we have the Christianity, Buddhism, Islam, Shinto, Taoism, Hinduism, Judaism, and Sikhism. And I know that you are very popular with them nowadays, because we have learned it to world religions, right? On grade 12, senior high school. And I hope that you understand more about them, since we are learning their concepts and how those religions affects ethics and also our moral thinking as a human person. Okay, so let's proceed with the functions of religion. Let me ask, are you still with me? Clap once, clap twice, clap thrice. Okay, just kidding. So let's proceed first with the functions of religion. So religion plays an important role in the society because it first provides moral guidance, gives meaning and purpose in life, promotes peace and unity, encourages compassion and service, and strengthens faith during difficulties. Okay, so first, religion plays an important role in society. It provides moral guidance. It makes us think for the better for what is good and what is right. Okay? So, next, it gives meaning and purpose in life. Why we are living today. Why we are pursuing this educational journey. Why I am motivated to do something in life. And that purpose in life comes with what we believe in for what is real. Okay? One of the functions of religion, again, is to give meaning in life and to give purpose in life, to make us believe into something that we must act upon our future. Next, it promotes peace and unity. Okay, so the peace and unity here is really effective. Okay, so it is really happening since different religions nowadays we have different beliefs, set of beliefs, and respect is the only thing. Peace and unity is the only thing that makes us one. Okay, so here, another example is with this is that we are believing that oneness with us, learning something about God, will make people unite and think that we have the same God and we must act good, we must do good with other people, and what we must follow what is being read in the Bible. And that will be our lifetime motivation. When we grow up, when we go with other places, when we go to church, when we go outside the church and apply those learnings into the society. Next is the strength. It strengthens faith during difficulties. Again, it strengthens faith during difficulties. It also encourages compassion and service. So us as an effective part of the society, we encourages compassion and service, of course. It is an action to do something that might help other people in the society. It is to do good. For example, you are raising a DVBS, daily vacation Bible school to your community because it helps the children in the community to know something about God, and it provides another feeding program for them to go with. Kasi, because we have people in the society, the youths in the society who experiences malnutrition, and some of them didn't know who is God and why is God living today, why is God influences us people. Next, it also strengthens faith during difficulties. When we are experiencing typhoons, and also some natural disasters, we think of God. We have praise. We have that faith with us that God will save us into thinking that God is always there with us, that it strengthens us, that challenges us, enable for us to learn something and to cope with it. Again, the faith during difficulties when we are experiencing bad happenings with us, especially the natural disasters, for example, it made us have that faith with us. So we must just think that faith is not only useful in difficult times, okay? So we must always be faithful at some point to be a religious individual in the society. And being faithful not only learned by just teaching yourself and going to church just to learn everything. Faith is being practiced through actions on how effective you are as a part of the society who learns more and something about God. Okay, we are done with the functions of religion, and I think we can proceed with these pictures. So, first, ethics, it promotes good behavior, encourages responsibility, guides decision making, while religion promotes moral living, encourages compassion, and provides spiritual guidance. So, to difference the two, to have a differences between the two, first, ethics based on reasoning, while religion is based on faith. Ethics is based on philosophical in nature, while religion is spiritual in nature. Ethics focuses on moral analysis while religion worship focuses on worship and beliefs. And to learn more something about it, I hope that you can save it so that you can have certain differences on how to understand both. Okay, so they are both useful, but at some point they have their own differences. And I hope that this illustration shows it and help you to understand it more further. Again, we can proceed with the religious challenge in the globalized world. The religious challenge in the globalized world. First, Joseph Ronzo highlights that since the adoption of universal declaration. And now let's continue to the religious challenge in the globalized world. Joseph Renzo highlights that since the adoption of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or UDHR, there has been an avoidance of religious perspectives because of the exclusive nature of religious traditions and perhaps because of the constitutional provision in many countries of the separation of the church and the state. So, again, UDHR, as we know today, so it is an avoidance of religious perspectives to declare human rights to protect people. Okay, so in the society, at some point, religious beliefs and also traditions affects on how people live today. So let me share this one video that I watched in a TV documentary. I will not name it, and also a group of people who believe in it. So there are some kind of people that has one religion, one tradition, and also one culture that believe that a minor and a grown man who has a lot of money will have a marriage, paired marriage, or a what we can say here, close marriage, wherein their parents will choose a man to marry with their daughter who is a minor, who's still a minor, and it is being a wide topic across the internet. At some point, some people won't believe it and won't accept it, won't agree with it because it also invalidated on what we are having at the moment, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is a set of laws that we establish here in the Philippines, not only the Philippines, but in the whole world that protects human. So at some point, they oppose it into thinking that they have their own belief system that they think is normal. It has been a part of their tradition through the years, and also that has been imprinted in the history of their culture. So it is a wide time or a wide battle between the centuries if this belief is right or wrong. That's why it is another challenge in a globalized world to have a religious effect in terms of ethics, because ethics makes us do something to think for what is right and what is good. Then why are those beliefs and practices still happening today? Okay? Next, the universalization of individual human freedom, which is now a part of an international agreement between nation states, awards religious invocations as the latter seemingly divides rather than unites human beings. So another challenge is that we have religions, and it makes us it must make us group something into thinking that we belong in this society, thinking the same thing, thinking the same beliefs, doing the same action in the society, the same goodness, but through time, they have, we, our our world has been creating different religious part in the society, or different religions. So now we have diverse part of the religion, and also highly or new religions that has been normalized part in the society. In case of thinking about that, there is no opposing side on making new religions here. It's just that they believe that universalization of individual human freedom is a part of our international agreement, so that group of people are now free to create different religions that they think for what is right, and also the people around them. And instead of, we have this belief in us that we people must be believing in the same goodness in us and act upon our virtue. It divides us, rather unites us human beings. So at some point, we have different division, we have different beliefs now, and sometimes it counter argument one opposing point of that belief that makes us have that misunderstandings around us, instead of uniting us into thinking that there is one way, there is one goodness in us that makes us work on it, that makes us believe on it. Okay, so that is one of the religious challenge again in the globalized world. It divides rather than unite as human beings. Another proponent is Scott M. Thomas, 2005. He argues, however, that the power of religion was being missed by the relentless secular theory of international relations. He further explains that the modern world has also not entirely dismissed the idea of religion. Okay, so again, religion is being taught until today in the 21st century. So the power of religion is being missed nowadays, even though that we have different platforms that test people's religious beliefs. At some point, the religion is being taking an advantage by some artificial intelligence videos, using God in to gather different likes or reactions in the internet, using God to gather likes and also follows in the internet. And sometimes we miss that goodness in us to believe that God leads us to do better. Instead of thinking something that might contribute other people, that might help other people, that we must see that there is a goodness in us, we take advantage on what we believe is right, or what we believe or what we think is high. Okay? So we dismiss the idea of religion since it is a challenge in a globalized world that also affect not only us but other people in society. I just think of our um older individuals that are now using or utilizing 21st century materials in the internet, and some people are taking advantages of it by using AI images that make them believe that it is real, that this is happening even though it didn't happen. So, religious responses in global moral issues are necessarily normative. At some point, we define normative as a way that it must be followed, a set of rules that you must do it, you must follow it because we intended to follow it. While we must acknowledge the modern day desire for a neutral and universal standard of norms, absolute neutrality is an impossibility based on Tirstein and Kamalipur 2000. So here, religious responses in global moral issues are necessarily normative. Again, it is again a set of rules that you must do this, you must be like this. At some point, I can give an example. One certain religion in the world prohibits women from going outside. Some countries might believe that it is nonsense. But at some point in their country, it is a part of their religion. It is the part of their tradition that must be respected. Okay? So, again, it is the modern day desire for a neutral and universal standard of norms. We have our standard. At some point, universal understanding is a must. But neutrality or at some point equality is impossibility. it is impossible to happen even today, based on Thirstein and Kamalipur 2000. Okay, to end things, to conclude things, let's have our generalization. Ethics and religion both guide people toward moral and responsible living. Ethics helps individuals analyze what is right and wrong through reason, while religion provides spiritual teachings and moral values based on faith. Together, they shape human character and encourage individuals to act with honesty, respect, compassion, and responsibility. Again, ethics and religion are there to shape us, to scaffold our human self into thinking for what is right and what is wrong on the faith that we believe in. Okay, so at some point, ethics and religion is really important because it leads us into a path that we must act upon to help us to do better and to do good, but also to affect other people, to see goodness in them, to appreciate them, that they are capable of doing something. If we learn to appreciate everything, to have faith in us, to have belief in the God that we're living in, then we can say that I can assure you that you will live for the better. Again, I hope that my Bible um Bible wordings or my Bible quote will our Bible verse will leave you a learning that in everything we do, there is a God who will instructs us for who we are and what we want to do in life. Again, it is in Philippians 4 verse 13 that I can do all things through God who strengthens me. Again, I am Adam Sigur E. Oladive, and I will be ending this discussion. I hope that you learned something and you can share it to others. And we must think that religion is not only a tool, it is our lifetime faith that shapes us for who we are and to who we want to be in the future. Thank you so much for listening.